Okay, today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is creativity and perfecting something. So stick around for this one. How many times have we all said to ourselves that we're gonna do something, one of these days we're gonna do something, and it's gonna be fantastic, it's gonna be great. We're musicians, and we're gonna make the greatest album of ever. We're gonna just blow the scene off, or we're photographers, and we're gonna do this job, and it's just gonna be so amazing that everybody's be completely blown away by it. Either it doesn't happen at all, or when it happens, it's a little bit disappointing. Why is that? Is it just all hot air? We know deep inside of ourselves that we're capable of doing great things. But why don't they come out? And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today. You see, too often we put too much value on things like talent. And like talent, I'm actually starting to dislike the word, because I think first of all, it's very misunderstood. Second of all, it's like an excuse. Talent. I don't have the talent. Or some people just are naturally talented or gifted. Rubbish. Absolute and utter rubbish. Anybody I ever come across who were great at something, it was because they put so many hours into it. Because they were so passionate about it that they wanted to do it. And it didn't look like it was hard work, because they loved it, every bit of it. They were doing it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's a fact. I was listening to a podcast of the Chase Jarvis Live podcast, and he was interviewing Kevin Kelly, who told us this wonderful story about a teacher in a art college in America, where the teacher told the sculpturing class that they have two choices. They can either work on that one piece of wonderful work all year if they're confident. If they're not confident, they can work on quantity. If they provide whatever certain amount of kilos of work, let's say if they provide 10 kilos worth of sculpture, different pieces of sculpture, they automatically get an A. And the thinking behind it was that you spent that 1 year working on one piece of work, or you do a lot of work. And the result was that none of the people who did the one piece of work were ever the greatest. The greatest pieces always came from the people who gave in a big pile of work. And it was something in that big pile of work that ended up being the masterpiece. It ended up being something wonderful. And it's because, perfecting something isn't, sitting and working on one thing. It's doing it over and over and over and over and over again. As a songwriter, you're not a born songwriter. Songwriting is a craft, it's a skill. You learn, you train your brain to think certain way, and you listen to music and you analyze other songs, you take them apart. You have a hunger to listen to other great music and analyze it, and you have a hunger to read poetry, whatever it is that get your mind thinking that way. As a performing musician, you're never gonna get up on a stage and be natural. You're still gonna make mistakes. You're gonna have to hone that craft of being on that stage, interacting with the audience. And I can tell you straight away, after doing it for years, preparation is the key of that as well. You practice, and you come in with a game plan. They talk about the famous 10,000 hours. And I understand why a lot of people have a kind of negative connotations with the idea of 10,000 hours, putting a 10,000 hours into something to perfect it, because the fact that you just put 10,000 hours into something, it doesn't necessarily guarantee anything, because you can waste those 10,000 hours. You can not be doing it, you're not doing it the right way, and you can definitely, with the right kind of way of doing things, you can do it even faster than 10,000 hours, no doubt about it. But the thing is that how you practice For example, playing guitar. I wasted a lot of time over years, a huge amount of times. But then somebody sat me down along the way and said, listen, here's here's a little couple of exercises, work on these. And in a 6 months, my guitar playing went through the roof. There was no magic trick in it. It was just purely starting to build the right muscles in your hand and get your fingers working the right way. By having those, it allowed better timing. It allowed me more accuracy and speed and things like that. You have to be willing to put the hours into whatever you do. And if you're not willing to put the hours into it, don't pretend that you're gonna be the greatest of this, that, and the other, because you're not. Simple as. I mean, yeah, you can live in your bubble, your own bubble, and your own imaginary world. Go for it. And you can't perfect something in your bedroom, if you know what I mean. Like, you have to get perspective on it. You have to go out on the world. You have to test it out, and you have to get other people's perspective on things as well. Like, you have to take them out. When I first started doing the 52-week song challenge, I very early on realized that I have to get out of not just sitting home and writing songs on my own. I have to utilize those songs in different projects that I can play them live in front of an audience, because having that perspective of when something might sound great in your head when you're in your kind of bubble, and you're just giving yourself a pat in the back all the time, but until you take it in front of an audience, that's when the critical side of kind of wakes up. And it doesn't mean that the audience necessarily is very critical to what you've done, because that's the scary part of, oh, what if they don't like it. But it's not even that. It's you start hearing it straight away from the perspective of the audience. When you're standing there in front of the audience, you're gonna go like, okay, that line is actually a bit tacky. I better work on that later on, And that's the thing. Like, songs, we think that we have to have a perfectly crafted song to go out there and play it in front of the audience. But songs are allowed to have a lifespan where they change with time. You can take a song that you think is ready, and you can go and perform it live, and you can come back and say that, okay, that didn't work really because of this and that or that, and you can go and change them, and next time have it even better. That's the beauty of art. It's not like, oh, it's not ready yet, I can't put it out there. Do take it out there. Like, take it out there in its raw form, and let people tell you that, it's not ready yet. And to be a good artist, you have to be willing to fail a lot. And I know failure is so scary. It's so, it's, if you go out there and you're gonna fail, you feel paralyzed. You feel like, suffocating. You feel, the cold sweats, and then you pretend that, I don't care. I don't give a crap. Yeah, you do. You do. Nobody wants to fail. But it's through that failure you learn things, and it's like the ones who succeed are the ones who did fail and got up, and they did that over and over and over again. Because we all are going to fail in our journey as an artist. There's no doubt about it. We're gonna fail, but the biggest failure is that most of us give up when we fail. It's the ones who just keep on going and going and going. Like, I've been in several different bands over the years where I thought, this is it, this is the one. And do you know what? Those bands don't exist anymore. But I learned so much about being in those bands. I got to play so many shows. I got to work on my 10,000 hours of performing. And I got to those bands where I would have been more of the lead person, or there's bands where I was more of like a on the background playing, the backing person. And all of those, I learned so much from my other bandmates, from my own experiences, from being in front of the audience, the creative process, the studio work, promoting the band, putting on shows. All of those experiences are part of who I am today and what I do today, and why I would consider myself being reasonably successful at what I do. I'm not a big million-selling artist, and I never will be, because that's not what I'm at. I'm an independent artist, and I'm very proud of that. I'm extremely proud of that I'm an independent artist. I'm in charge of my music. I'm in charge of what I do. And I think I'm successful at that because, and I get to bring joy to the most everyday moments of people's lives. They might be walking into a bar and they might have had a rough day, and they're just there to have a couple of beers, get it out of my mind, relax a little bit, and then there's music going on in a corner, and at the end of the night they come around to me and say like, look, listen, I just want to say, really really enjoyed that. It really, you can see that they've had a wonderful experience, going from that, having that crappy day, to having this wonderful experience, and I got to do that. That's amazing. So yeah, I would consider myself being, successful and lucky to be able to do what I do. But it took a lot of time and work, and it took me to appreciate those little wins, those little moments of when things like that happen. It's not about going in there and showing them how it's done and nailing it. That means nothing. That's just your own ego talking, and it's, as long as it's all about your own ego, you will never be successful, and even if you would be successful, it will never be fulfilling. So get out there, start creating stuff, and stop making excuses. That's what this whole speak is about. You gotta go out there, start creating stuff, and a lot of it. Hopefully you guys got something out of it. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe. That really would mean a world to me. And I shall talk to you guys more soon.